Welcome, everyone, to the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, not a lot of hockey the last week, but certainly lots happening in the world of hockey.
Oh yeah. I mean, this whole pandemic is just wreaking havoc all over our chance to go to the Olympics, and
Yeah.
only 50% capacity now for the World Juniors, which is going to hurt. So yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but it's not shocking. And it was almost expected it was going to come to this.
Yeah, I kind of expected it. In fact, I'm expecting the whole Olympic Games to be probably canceled and pushed to next season. I that is my guess. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I certainly hope it does, because then the NHL players probably will get an opportunity to go and play in the Olympics if they put it off for another year.
Well, yeah, I was just going to mention that myself too. I mean, you got to believe that this issue going to Beijing has got to be affecting other sports, other teams, other athletes, coaches, all the same thing, just different categories. So if they delay it a year, it's better for everybody all around. And the other thing option, I guess, in HLS is maybe bring back the World Cup next fall for a best on best tournament.
Yeah, I mean they could do that. I mean those World Cups, Canada Cup, whatever you want to call them. I mean they're really exciting. It's great hockey, and you got great competition amongst all the countries that are playing in it. I don't know. I don't know if it's better than the Olympics. In some cases, it probably is because it's on a smaller rink over here, and the action is a little bit better than on the wide open Olympic size ice. That for me anyway, that's the way I feel.
Well, now you played for Canada a few times internationally. First, you were part of that first World Junior team in '78 that actually
Hmm.
picked a team from across country. Just share with the listeners that experience and what you took away from it.
Well, that was an unbelievable experience for me at 18 years old, getting to represent your country in the World Juniors. The the greatest part of it was they took out all the weight equipment in the Montreal Canadiens dressing room at the Forum and put stalls in there. So we dressed in their weight room, and we showered in their showers. We could walk around their dressing room. We could watch them practice every day. I mean, for a young 18-year-old kid who's playing on a world stage, but you get to dress in their room and use their showers and look at all the plaques above the stalls and everything. It was incredible, and we had a heck of a team too. I mean, I think there was a young guy, 99, that played in
Yeah.
that tournament. Uh, he was only six. He was only 16 years old, and I believe he led the tournament in scoring too. So, but we ended up with the bronze. But the Russians were powerful. The Swedes were really good as well. So, um, we did the best we could, obviously, and we came up a little bit short.
We'll talk about the '82. You played twice for Canada at the World Championships, '82 and '85. How is that different than, say, maybe the World Juniors, or was it?
Well, yeah, it's quite a bit different because first of all, you're in Europe, or I was in Europe both those times. They never had the World Championships in North America during those
Yeah.
times. They were always in Europe. So Finland, the first time, it was magnificent. We had a great team. That was the year Montreal got beat out, Edmonton got beat out, Philadelphia got beat out. We had a heck of a team. And then in '85, it was in Prague, which was quite a bit different because Prague was still a communist country at the time. So you're
Mhm.
walking around downtown Prague, and you see soldiers on street corners with machine guns and everything. It was kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? It was pretty weird, but we got revenge on the Soviets because in '82, the last game of the medal round, and the points carried over from the regular round to the medal round. So the Russians were undefeated, 7-0. They won their first two games in the medal round, so they were going to win the gold. But the last game of the medal round was the Russians against the Czechs. They tied 0-0. if you can believe it. The Russians were dumping it in and changing, and they weren't chasing the puck, well, they never gave up the puck for the most part back then. So we ended up getting the bronze, and the Czechs got the silver. And then when we went to Prague, the Czechs won the gold. We beat the Soviets in the final medal round game to grab the silver, and they ended up with the bronze. So we got them back.
That's nice revenge on that front. Now, what I'm looking at is how serious did the players take when they first arrived? I know 82, you said you had a really strong team because of the upsets in the first round of the playoffs, because usually the teams that don't make the playoffs and first round eliminated teams, they can pick up extra players as the tournament moves along. But let's face it, I mean, it's almost like the old King Clancy tournament, minor hockey in Toronto, for the teams that don't advance to the playoffs. It gives them a few additional games so they play a tournament. But being Canadians, once they put those uniforms on and get into game conditions, all of a sudden that whole meter of competitiveness just goes through the roof and right off the charts. And it just seems that the players all of a sudden is there sort of a sense that because you're looked upon, you can't win. If you win the gold, you're expected to win the gold. If you don't win the gold, the comment is, we didn't send our best. So is there that extra motivation for the players to push themselves a little harder?
Yeah, I think so, Mike. And I think, I mean, as soon as you put that sweater on with that maple leaf on the front, everything changes. And, you know, when you go over there originally, there's usually about a half a team, and then they grab a bunch of European players from Canada that are playing over there for the exhibition games. And then once teams get beat out in the first round, then more players start coming over. And once you get to that stage and the tournament begins, and I mean, the guys are 100% into it and want to win the gold medal. There's no question. Because you got that maple leaf on the front of your sweater, and you go, hey, we gotta win a goal for our country. Now,
a lot of the players that get interviewed and have been interviewed recently all talk about the experience of playing at the Olympics and winning the gold medal and the feeling and the things they learn and everything that goes associated with it. You played in 3 international tournaments representing the country. What did you we talked about the juniors. What did you take away from the World Cups as a player?
Well, I tried out in 83 or 84, I believe.
84. 81 and 84 and 87. And,
yeah, 84. That was a great experience. I mean, you know, it was a lot of the Oilers were on that team, and a lot of Canadians. It was a hell of a team. I mean, there was 32 guys there, and only 22 or 23 make the team. So when you're told that you're cut and you're not going to make the team, you're looking and you're going, well, you're disappointed, obviously. But then you look and you go, well, holy cow! Like, out of these 32 guys, like there's a lot of really good players. So you don't feel all that bad about not making the Canada Cup team. And that was the only one I was ever invited to. So they had a hell of a team, and that was the one that they ended up beating the Russians, I believe, in the best of 3. I think it was
John Tonelli scored the winner.
Mario Lemieux.
No, that was 87. That was in 87.
Oh, was it? Okay.
84, Tonelli scored the winner. Remember, Coffey broke up the 2-on-1 in overtime,
and
Tonelli came down and scored the winner.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at that roster, and there was only 32 skaters invited. So you don't feel all that bad about not making that team. And then they go on and win the whole thing. You're sitting back watching it and going, wow. I mean,
well, Squid, where I was really going with it was, what did the 2 World Cups you played in representing Canada, just maybe on your note, what did the players talk about learning? What did you learn coming to play representing Canada those 2 times as a player?
Well, I learned, first of all, that on Olympic-size ice, the game is much, much different than it is over here on the smaller ice surface. It's kind of funny because, you know, coming down the wing and used to taking a slap shot from the top of the circle or whatever, but when you go over there, all of a sudden you're winding up to take a shot and you look and the net seems like it's a mile away. It's a completely different angle. everything is different. So you got to adjust to that. And but you know what? Playing on that stage is unbelievable. I mean, you're playing against the best players of all the countries, and for me, it was an incredible thing to go through. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and I got to play with a lot of really good players over there in '82 and '85. Mario Lemieux was there in '85, so you know we had good teams both years.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to keep watch obviously very closely as things unfold, but looks hopefully we do get a chance to see the Olympics maybe next year, but this year looks like it's off the charts, but something hopefully will happen as far as the World Cup or something, and maybe we'll get to see our guys compete because the clock is ticking for guys like Steven Stamkos and even Crosby and Connor McDavid in
Yeah.
that Olympics could be 29 years old. So the clock's ticking on a lot of these guys who want to see them all at their best. That's for sure. So speaking of which,
Well, yeah, I would rather see it postponed till next year so we could see all those guys play in the Olympics because I mean, the teams that the U.S. and Canada would send over would be unbelievable.
exactly right. Well, speaking of which, it's that turning point in the NHL season. We're at the Christmas break. A little break's a little longer than we originally anticipated. What have you liked? We've talked about this a lot, but what have you liked about the Leafs so far to this point in the season?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of things about what they're doing, and one of them is playing. They're playing a lot better in their own zone as a team. The forwards are coming back. They're playing a little bit better in their own zone. I don't see them making that many stretch passes that they did a lot last year.
Yep.
And even in the playoffs, they continue to do that, and they didn't make any adjustments. But this year, they seem to be playing a little bit differently. They're coming back a little deeper. They're playing better than their own zone. The only thing I'm still worried about a little bit is the lack of depth on their defense. And as I said, I think one other time, I wouldn't be shocked if they pull off a deal just before the deadline, or maybe even a month before the deadline, to bring in another defenseman to bolster that depth. I mean, they're all good. Don't get me wrong, but they just need a little bit more depth, I think, on the back end. As far as the forwards, no problem whatsoever. They got a lot of depth at the forward position.
Well, it's going to be that time when the clock gets ticking again, starting in January, and things start to heat up as far as the trade deadline coming up, as you touched on, playoff implications, playoff matchups, all that stuff becomes a factor. Now, every player is aware of this too, same as all the fans are. As a player, how did you keep yourself focused from blocking out all the white noise moving forward after this date, say?
Well, you know, I guess I was pretty fortunate that even growing up as a kid and you know, through junior and everything, I was able to block a lot of things out. You know, I was able to block out the crowd. I wouldn't even hear the crowd during a game. I'd be able to focus on what the coach was saying or my teammates when I was on the ice. So I was very fortunate. I was able to block out a lot of that white noise, Mike, quite honestly. So it didn't bother me at all. And again, I've said this a number of times. You need thick skin to play in a market like Toronto because, you know, all of a sudden they come back and they start struggling a little bit. Well, they're going to hear a lot of stuff on TV and the newspapers and you name it, and the radio and everything else. And you've got to be able to block that out and say, forget it. Don't even worry about it. I got a job to do. I need to go out and do it every game. And I can't worry about what everybody's saying on the radio or television. I was very lucky I had the ability to block that out.
Well, as they say, from a king to a jack, and that can always happen in Toronto, playing like Toronto, but very quickly, where every player on the roster, maybe except 34, could be traded in the next couple months if things go bad. So you know how it can all swing very quickly. So you do have to have very thick skin, as you said, and have to block a lot of that out, and especially try not to pay attention to what they're saying on TV and what they're writing about you in the papers. So speaking of which,
well, especially when you're young, Mike, that's the key. Is they got a lot of young players. They got a lot of guys that are new to Toronto that they brought in this off season, and I don't think they know what it's like when things are going downward. What happens in Toronto? So let's hope that that doesn't happen, obviously. But if it does, and they start to stumble a little bit, I wonder how these young guys are going to handle that and get through it.
Well, the best way to solve that problem, keep winning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that you're absolutely right.
Now, speaking of which, for all things coming up in the new year, there's something here we should touch on that I think is very near to you. Maybe you don't want to hear this, but March of this year is going to be the 40th anniversary of your first 50 goal season. First off, how old does that make you feel? Listen, I'm older than you, so that makes me feel old because I saw it.
Well, I feel quite a bit older than I mean, it's 40 years, and I was 22 years old when I did it. So you know what that makes me, 62, and I feel much older. But you know what? I feel good. I starting to work out more. My son has drawn up some workouts for me, and I've been following that for about the last 3 weeks, and starting to feel a little bit better. Um, but yeah, that was a great moment in my career. Probably, I always get asked what was the best part or moment of your career. Well, that obviously was one of them, but I still believe that I got to play in the best league in the world for 13 years. That was the best moment in my career, all 13 years.
Well, while we're focusing in on this a little bit, what about the at this point of that year, Christmas time, just to give us a little Christmas cheer here to go back, and if you can remember back then, what were you thinking as you were going into the second half of the year, we'll call it, that 50 goal season? And first off, I don't think you even knew that no Leaf had ever scored 50 goals before, had you? Or did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that, and of course, I wasn't thinking 50 goals because I think at Christmas, I think I only had like 10 or 12
Well,
goals,
that's where I was going.
and I think I ended up with 44 in the last, or 42 or three in the last 50 games of the season. And when I got to about 44, 45, then the press started, talking to me and saying, hey, what would it be like to be the first Maple Leaf to score 50 goals? And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, no one has ever done it. When I look at all the great players that played in Toronto I think we were in the 70th year, I think, or roughly at that point of the franchise, and no one had ever done it, and I didn't know that. And when they told me that, I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. I would have thought that for sure somebody had done it before. So that gave me the opportunity to become the first player ever to do it in a Toronto uniform, and lo and behold, it ended up happening with about 6 games left, and then added 4 more onto that. So that was a great moment, and for me anyway. And I don't think we made the playoffs that year, unfortunately. So yeah, because that was the year I went to Finland.
Well, yeah, that's of course and you had a good team though. Now you had a very cool moment the day after you did break the record from somebody coming to visit you.
Yeah, it was amazing. Frank Mahovlich, who had the record of 48, and of course I had broken his of 49. And the next day, this was before the 50 goals,
Yeah.
but he came by to practice and came in and congratulated me and got pictures taken with me and everything. And it was like, wow, like I'm like, here I am standing beside Frank Mahovlich, and he's congratulating me on breaking his record. And I'm like it was unbelievable. It was a great moment for me, and especially you're 22 years old, and you look back at that, and you just can't believe that a guy like that would come in and do that. But that's what hockey players are like, no question.
Well, so I can imagine now 34. We don't want to jinx him, but number 34. If there's a day, and we
Mhm.
all believe there will be, when that happens, will you be there the next day to greet him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to. I mean, obviously, if it happens this year, I may not be able to get in the building, but with everything that's going on. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Again, like, I know it's an old cliche that records are meant to be broken, but he's an amazing goal scorer, and I'd be happy if he did it, and I'd be the first person, hopefully, to be there to congratulate him. And and get a picture taken with him, and say, hey, way to go. I mean, because he is an unbelievable goal scorer. There's no question.
Well, you remember back about a year ago when we had him on our show, and the technical difficulty blocked you out when we were doing
Yeah,
it at this
yeah,
event that we won't embarrass the guy, but it was at an event we did, and there's these thousands of people waiting to listen to Austin and you speak. And Austin even said to me off air, he said, I really wanted to meet Rick and speak to him. So he's looking forward to having a chat with you. So he promised to come on our show when he does score the 50, but we didn't want to jinx it. So we'll see if that ever happens. So it'll be a great meeting between you two guys one day. Hopefully it happens soon, and hopefully there's some good things to follow behind it.
yeah. Well, it's going to happen. And I can't see him. He's got 20. He's got what, 52 games to score 35 goals. I mean, I can't imagine that he wouldn't do that.
Wow, just the ability that this kid has, I just think it's just one of these things, and Leaf fans, they'd all appreciate it, just appreciate it even more because you're witnessing something you may not see again for a long, long time because the talent that this kid's had, that puck just, as you know yourself, real good players, the puck follows them around, the Marios and the Gretzkys and the McDavids, and he's no exception to that himself as the puck just seems to be around him all the time. And that's not by accident.
No, I was just going to say, because guys that score 50 goals know where to go. They know where the puck's going to go before plays are even made. And it's kind of like you watch him and you watch where he goes on the ice. And you're right, the puck seems to follow him, but it's not by accident. He knows where the puck's going to end up. And he goes to areas where he's going to be open and available and get that shot away. And if you give him 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds to get that shot away, chances are a goaltender's not even going to have a chance to stop it.
Well, we'll be cheering him on very obviously loudly and very voiceless going forward, if that's such a word. We'll keep it going, and hopefully that'll happen one day, and you two guys will have him back on, and we'll have a good chat with him. Squid, your favorite time? Your favorite time of the show? The quote of the day, I thought I would keep it very simple today because with the theme being for the Leafs not to be distracted by the white noise. So just keep it very simple. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Hit me with it.
If you're a positive, you'll see opportunities instead of obstacles.
Yeah, I believe that 100%. And I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like that's a no-brainer. I mean, if you got a positive attitude going into the rink every single day, you're not going to see any obstacles in your path. You're going to see nothing but opportunities. And regardless of what's going on or the white noise or anything, if you're able to block that out and stay positive, good things are going to happen. There's no question in my mind that is a big part of being successful in the National Hockey League, in the NFL, in the NBA. Doesn't matter. That's very, very big part of being successful.
And that's a very big part of everyday life for anybody who wants to be successful at anything they do.
Yeah.
That is obviously one thing, the mantra you can live by. And I would suggest that if you can put that in your repertoire on a daily basis, you will be very successful. Well, folks, that's our show for today. We're going to do a best of this week on our podcast because it's on Christmas Eve. Squid and the Ultimately Fan, that show will drop on Friday. They're going to surprise that one. They're going to take one from the past and pick one out. We've had lots of really great ones coming on, so they're going to throw one on there for Friday. We're going to be back next week, same time, same place, hopefully with hockey back, and hopefully some hockey back and running. We'll have something more to talk about. But until then, Merry Christmas, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.